Not everyone deserves access to your plans. This is one of the hardest truths to accept because as human beings, we naturally want to share. We want to talk about our dreams, our goals, our next big move. We want someone to say, "Wow, that's amazing," or "I believe in you." But here is what life teaches you, slowly and sometimes painfully. Not everyone who listens to you wants the best for you. And not everyone who smiles at your dreams wants to see them come true. When you tell people your plans too early, you give them power over something that is still fragile. A dream in its early stage is like a newborn baby. You don't hand a newborn to everyone in the room. You protect it, you nurture it, you keep it safe. Your plans deserve the same care because the moment you speak them out loud, they are no longer just yours. They enter a world full of opinions, doubts, jealousy, comparison, and unnecessary advice. Some people will discourage you, not because your dream is bad, but because it reminds them of the dreams they never had the courage to chase. Your ambition makes their comfort uncomfortable. So they say things like, "Be realistic," "People like us don't succeed," or "Why take such a big risk?" They might sound practical, but often it's fear speaking through them, not wisdom. Others will listen with curiosity, not support. They will nod, ask questions, and seem interested, but inside they are collecting information, not to help you, but to gossip, compare, or quietly compete. When your plans don't work out immediately, they will be the first to say, "I knew it wouldn't happen." And when your plans do work out, they will say, "Oh, she just got lucky." Either way, they were never on your side. Then there are people who genuinely care about you, but still don't need to know everything. Even good intentions can create pressure. When you announce your plans, people start asking, "What happened? Any update? Did it work?" And suddenly, instead of focusing on the work, your mind is busy managing expectations. You feel stressed, rushed, and anxious, not because the work is hard, but because too many people are watching a process that is meant to be private. There is also a psychological truth here. When you talk too much about what you are going to do, your brain gets a false sense of achievement. You feel productive just by speaking. You feel validated just by being heard. And slowly, the urgency to actually do the work decreases. Silence, on the other hand, keeps you hungry. It keeps you focused. It reminds you that nothing has been achieved yet, and that the only thing that matters is action. Moving in silence doesn't mean you are hiding because you are afraid. It means you are disciplined enough to wait. It means you understand timing. You are not secretive, you are selective. You choose carefully who gets access to your inner world. You share your plans only with those who have proven, through their actions, that they want to see you grow, not shrink. Think about the strongest people you know, the ones who truly succeed. Did they talk a lot about what they were going to do? Or did they disappear for a while, work quietly, struggle silently, and then one day surprise everyone with results? Real growth often looks invisible from the outside. Long nights, self-doubt, failures, learning, and rebuilding. None of this needs an audience. When you keep your plans to yourself, you also protect yourself from negativity. Words have power. Doubt spreads faster than belief. One careless comment from the wrong person can stay in your mind for days. It can weaken your confidence, slow your pace, and make you question yourself. Silence acts like a shield. It keeps your mental space clean, focused, and strong. There is also dignity in privacy. Not everything in your life needs to be explained or justified. You don't owe everyone a story. You don't need permission to dream differently. When you stop explaining your plans, you stop seeking approval. And the day you stop seeking approval is the day you start becoming truly powerful. Remember, people don't need to know what you're building while you're building it. Let them see it when it's done. Let them see the result, not the rehearsal. Let your actions speak when your words are no longer needed. Because when success finally arrives, it doesn't need introductions, excuses, or explanations. It speaks clearly, confidently, and convincingly on your behalf. Silence protects your energy in ways most people don't realize, especially in a world that constantly demands explanations, reactions, and opinions. Every time you speak, explain, defend, or justify yourself, you are spending emotional and mental energy. And energy, once spent in the wrong place, is very hard to recover. Silence is not just the absence of words, it is a form of self-respect. It is choosing where your energy goes instead of allowing everyone else to decide that for you. Think about how draining it feels to explain yourself to someone who has already decided not to understand you. You talk, you clarify, you give reasons, you try to be logical, and yet you walk away feeling exhausted and unheard. That exhaustion is not from the conversation itself, but from wasted energy. Silence saves you from that. It stops you from pouring effort into places where nothing grows. Not every question deserves an answer. Not every comment deserves a reaction. Not every opinion deserves space in your mind. When you learn to stay silent, you learn to conserve your strength. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding intentionally. Or sometimes, you choose not to respond at all. That choice alone can bring immense peace. Many people confuse silence with weakness because they think strength is loud. They think power is proving a point, winning an argument, or having the last word. But real power is self-control. It takes far more strength to stay silent than to react emotionally. Anyone can shout, argue, or complain. Very few can pause, breathe, and choose calm over chaos. Your energy is limited. You wake up each day with only a certain amount of mental focus, emotional capacity, and physical strength. When you waste that energy on gossip, unnecessary debates, negativity, or trying to please others, you have less left for what truly matters: your growth, your work, your healing, and your purpose. Silence acts like a filter. It blocks out noise so your energy can flow in the right direction. Silence also protects your inner peace. When you talk too much, especially about your struggles, you often reopen wounds that are trying to heal. You relieve pain just to explain it to someone who may not even care deeply. Silence allows healing to happen privately, without judgment or interruption. It gives you the space to process emotions without outside influence. There is also a deep emotional intelligence in silence. When you speak less, you observe more. You start noticing people's intentions, patterns, and behaviors. You realize who respects you, who drains you, and who truly supports you. When you are always talking, you miss these signals. Silence sharpens awareness, and awareness protects energy. Another powerful aspect of silence is that it keeps you grounded. Words can escalate situations. One sentence leads to another, emotions rise, egos clash, and suddenly a small issue becomes a big problem. Silence can stop that chain reaction. It creates a pause, and in that pause, wisdom has room to enter. Many conflicts don't need solutions, they need space. Silence provides that space. Silence also protects you from regret. Words spoken in anger, frustration, or insecurity can never be taken back. They can damage relationships, reputations, and self-respect. Silence gives you time to cool down, to think clearly, and to respond from a place of maturity rather than emotion. Often, what you don't say saves you far more than what you do. When you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you also stop carrying their expectations. Expectations are heavy. They sit on your shoulders, influencing your decisions and draining your confidence. Silence frees you from that weight. You move at your own pace, make choices based on your values, and grow without pressure. That freedom is a powerful source of energy. Silence doesn't mean isolation. It means balance. You still speak when it matters, when it adds value, when it brings clarity or kindness. But you no longer feel the need to fill every moment with words. You understand that your energy is precious, and you treat it that way. Over time, silence builds a quiet strength within you. You become less reactive, less anxious, and more focused. Your mind feels clearer. Your emotions feel lighter. You stop leaking energy through unnecessary conversations and start channeling it into meaningful action. In a noisy world, silence is a form of self-care. It protects your energy, preserves your peace, and strengthens your presence. And when you finally speak, your words carry weight because they come from a place of calm, clarity, and inner power. Let results do the talking because words are easy and promises are cheap. But results are rare and undeniable. Anyone can say they are hardworking, talented, or destined for greatness. Anyone can announce big plans, big dreams, and big intentions. But life does not reward intention, it rewards execution. The world does not listen to what you say you will do. It watches what you actually do. When you talk too much about your goals, you invite judgment before achievement. People begin to measure you not by your effort, but by your outcome, even before the outcome exists. Every delay, every obstacle, every learning curve starts to look like failure in their eyes. And that creates pressure, doubt, and distraction. Results, on the other hand, need no defense. They stand strong without explanation. There is a quiet confidence that comes from focusing on action instead of announcement. When you stop trying to convince people with words, you start proving yourself with consistency. That consistency compounds. Day by day, small actions stack up into visible progress. And one day, without a single speech or argument, people notice. Not because you told them to, but because the evidence is right in front of them. Results also protect you from unnecessary arguments. You don't have to explain your choices when your outcomes explain them for you. You don't have to justify your path when your growth makes your direction obvious. Words invite debate. Results end it. People may argue with your opinions, but they cannot argue with your transformation. Another powerful truth is that results earn respect, not attention-seeking words. Attention can be gained temporarily through talking, posting, or boasting, but respect is built slowly through performance. Respect comes when people see discipline, patience, And resilience reflected in your life, it comes when your actions align with your values. And respect lasts far longer than applause. Letting results speak also builds inner strength. When you rely on words, you become dependent on validation. You need others to agree, approve, or praise you. But when you rely on results, your confidence becomes internal. You know what you have done, you know what you have overcome. You don't need constant reassurance because your progress is real. Results also create clarity. They show you what works and what doesn't. Talking about ideas keeps you in theory. Acting on them brings feedback from reality. That feedback sharpens you. It forces growth. Silence combined with action is one of the fastest ways to improve. Because you are listening to outcomes, not opinions. There is also humility in letting results speak. It keeps your ego in check. You stop feeling superior because you are too busy working. You stop comparing yourself to others because your focus is inward. And when success arrives, it feels grounded, not inflated. You know how much effort it took, and that knowledge keeps you humble. When results come, they change how people treat you. The same people who doubted you begin to listen. The same voices that questioned your choices become quiet. Not because you proved them wrong with words, but because your life became the proof. This shift is powerful, not for revenge, but for peace. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself. Results also inspire others more than words ever can. People may forget what you said, but they remember what you did. They remember the discipline you showed, the consistency you maintained, and the growth you achieved. Your journey becomes a silent motivation, especially for those who are watching quietly. Letting results speak requires patience. It means delaying recognition. It means working without applause. It means trusting the process even when no one is clapping. But that patience builds resilience. It teaches you to find satisfaction in progress, not praise. And that is a powerful skill in a world addicted to instant validation. In the end, when you allow results to speak for you, you gain freedom. Freedom from explaining, freedom from proving, freedom from defending your worth. Your life becomes your message. Your work becomes your voice. And without saying much at all, you communicate something far stronger than words ever could. Oversharing creates unnecessary pressure, and most people don't realize this until they feel the weight of it pressing down on them. When you share too much about your goals, timelines, struggles, or plans, you invite expectations into a space that needs freedom. At first, it feels harmless. You think you're just being open, honest, or motivated. But slowly, almost silently, that openness begins to turn into a burden. The moment you tell people what you are working toward, they start watching. They may not say it out loud, but their awareness creates a sense of being observed. Simple questions like, "How's it going?" or "Any progress?" begin to feel heavy, not because they are wrong, but because they arrive before the process is complete. You are no longer just working for yourself. You are working under a spotlight you didn't ask for. This pressure can quietly change the way you work. Instead of focusing on learning, improving, and growing at your own pace, you start thinking about deadlines you never officially set. You start rushing progress just to have something to report. And in that rush, quality suffers. Creativity shrinks. Joy fades. What once felt exciting begins to feel stressful. Oversharing also makes setbacks harder to handle. Failure is a natural part of growth, but when too many people know about your plans, failure feels public. A small delay feels like embarrassment. A necessary pause feels like defeat. Instead of seeing obstacles as lessons, you start seeing them as something to hide or justify. That emotional load is exhausting. Another problem with oversharing is that it invites opinions you didn't ask for. Everyone suddenly becomes an expert on your life. They tell you how to do things, when to do them, and whether you should do them at all. Even when advice is well meaning, too much of it creates confusion. You begin to doubt your own instincts. Your vision gets blurred by other people's fears and limitations. There is also a subtle identity trap in oversharing. When you talk too much about who you are becoming, you start feeling like you must live up to that image immediately. You lock yourself into expectations that don't allow growth or change. But growth is messy. It requires room to experiment, fail, adapt, and evolve. Oversharing steals that room. Social media has made this pressure even heavier. People now announce goals publicly, share every step, and document journeys in real time. While this can be motivating for some, for many, it creates constant comparison. You start measuring your progress against curated versions of other people's lives. You feel behind, inadequate, or rushed, even when your journey is perfectly on track. When you keep things private, you give yourself permission to move slowly, quietly, and authentically. You don't owe updates. You don't need to perform progress. You can focus on building a solid foundation instead of displaying unfinished work. Privacy removes the noise and brings clarity. Oversharing also ties your self-worth to outcomes. When many people know your goal, success feels like relief and failure feels like shame. But when your journey is private, success feels satisfying and failure feels instructive. The emotional experience changes completely. You become candid to yourself. You learn without judgment. Silence, in this sense, is a form of self-protection. It allows you to grow without fear of disappointing others. It allows you to adjust your path without explaining why. It allows you to rest without guilt. All of this reduces pressure and preserves mental health. There is strength in doing things quietly. It keeps your focus internal instead of external. You start measuring progress by effort and improvement, not by reactions or applause. This internal focus builds resilience. You become less affected by opinions and more connected to purpose. When you finally share your results, the pressure is gone. There is no anxiety, no need to justify delays, no fear of judgment. You speak from a place of completion, not uncertainty. And that feels empowering. Oversharing may feel like connection, but often it is a source of unnecessary stress. Privacy gives you space to breathe, think, and grow. It reminds you that your journey is yours, not a performance for others. And in that quiet space, free from pressure, real progress happens. Quiet preparation builds unstoppable confidence, the kind that doesn't shake when people doubt you and doesn't disappear when applause fades. This confidence is not loud, flashy, or dependent on validation. It grows slowly in private through discipline, repetition, and patience. Most people look for confidence outside themselves, but the strongest confidence is built when no one is watching. When you prepare quietly, you remove the pressure to perform. There is no audience to impress, no expectations to meet. and no comparisons to distract you. You are free to focus on learning rather than proving. This freedom allows you to make mistakes without fear, to ask honest questions, and to improve at your own pace. Each small improvement becomes a brick in the foundation of real confidence. Confidence that comes from preparation is different from confidence that comes from praise. Praise feels good, but it is temporary. It depends on others. Preparation creates certainty. When you have done the work, practiced the skill, studied the process, and faced the difficulties, you trust yourself. That trust stays with you even in silence. Quiet preparation also builds resilience. When things don't go as planned, you don't panic because you know you are capable of adapting. You've already faced challenges during preparation. You've already struggled, failed, and corrected yourself in private. So when pressure comes publicly, it feels familiar, not frightening. There is a deep psychological strength in knowing you are ready, even if no one else knows it yet. You walk differently. You speak differently. You don't rush to prove yourself because you know your ability will show when the time is right. This calm presence often gets mistaken for mystery, but it is simply confidence rooted in preparation. Quiet preparation also protects you from arrogance. When you prepare in silence, you see how much effort mastery requires. You respect the process. You understand your limitations and work on them. This humility keeps your confidence grounded and authentic. You don't feel superior, you feel capable. Another powerful aspect of quiet preparation is focus. When you stop announcing your goals, you stop receiving distractions. No opinions, no comparisons, no unnecessary advice. Your energy stays directed toward the task. That focus accelerates growth. You improve faster because your attention is not divided. Preparation in silence also creates emotional stability. You are not emotionally dependent on feedback. You don't rise with praise or fall with criticism. Your confidence comes from within, from knowing you have shown up for yourself consistently. This stability is rare and powerful. When the moment finally arrives to perform, speak, lead, or act, your confidence feels effortless. You are not nervous about being exposed because you know what you have done behind the scenes. Even if things don't go perfectly, you remain composed. Preparation gives you that safety net. Quiet preparation also changes how you measure success. You stop chasing recognition and start valuing progress. You celebrate private wins. You respect small improvements. This internal reward system keeps you motivated, even when external validation is absent. Over time, this type of confidence becomes unshakable. It doesn't depend on circumstances or opinions. It stays with you in failure and success. It grows with every challenge you face and every effort you make. People often notice this confidence before they notice your success. They sense it in your calm, your patience, and your clarity. They may not know what you've been preparing for, but they feel your presence. And when your preparation finally meets opportunity, your confidence doesn't need to announce itself. It shows naturally through your actions. Quiet preparation teaches you one powerful truth. You don't need to be seen to become strong. You don't need to be heard to become capable. You just need to be committed. And that commitment, practiced in silence, builds a confidence that nothing and no one can take away. People doubt what they don't see coming, and that doubt is often rooted not in logic, but in limitation. When others cannot predict your moves, they feel uncomfortable. When your progress is quiet, unseen, and unannounced, it challenges their assumptions about who you are and what you are capable of. And instead of expanding their belief, many people choose to doubt. Doubt usually begins with familiarity. People build an image of you based on past behavior, old roles, or earlier versions of yourself. They decide consciously or unconsciously what you can and cannot do. When you move in silence, you step outside that image. There are no updates to reassure them, no hints to prepare them, no gradual adjustment. So when your success appears, it feels sudden, unexpected, and often unbelievable to them. This is why surprise success is so powerful. It bypasses opinions. It arrives fully formed. There is no room for early criticism, discouragement, or sabotage. By the time people notice, the work is already done. Doubt loses its voice when results are visible. When people doubt you, it can feel personal, but often it isn't. Their doubt reflects their own boundaries. They measure your potential using their experience, their fears, and their limits. If they couldn't do it, they assume you can't either. Silence protects you from carrying that borrowed limitation. Announcing plans gives people time to doubt you. They begin imagining all the ways you could fail. They project their insecurities onto your vision. Even subtle comments can plant seeds of uncertainty in your mind. But when you move quietly, there is no window for that doubt to enter. You stay focused. You keep momentum. Unexpected growth also changes power dynamics. People who doubted you lose the authority to define you. They are forced to update their perception, sometimes reluctantly. This shift can be uncomfortable for them, but empowering for you. You realize that you don't need permission to evolve. There is also an inner benefit to being doubted without knowing it. When you are not aware of others' skepticism, you are less likely to internalize it. You don't waste energy proving yourself. You simply work. This creates a purer form of motivation, driven by purpose rather than resistance. When success comes quietly, it feels stronger. You know how hard you worked. You know the obstacles you faced alone, and you didn't rely on belief from others to keep going. That self-reliance builds pride, not arrogance, but deep self-respect. People often react to unexpected success with surprise, then curiosity, then respect. The same voices that once doubted become silent or supportive. But by then, their opinion matters less. You've already learned to trust yourself. Moving in silence also teaches patience. You learn to delay recognition. You learn to tolerate being underestimated. This patience strengthens character. It prepares you for bigger responsibilities and greater challenges. When people don't see your progress, they can't interfere, they can't compete, compare, or discourage. Your path remains clear. This clarity increases efficiency. You move faster because you are not navigating resistance. Unexpected success also inspires others in a unique way. It shows that growth doesn't need validation. It shows that quiet effort can lead to visible results. It reminds people that change is possible, even when it's not announced. In the end, being doubted is not a disadvantage. It's a hidden advantage. It gives you space to grow. It frees you from expectations. And when your work finally becomes visible, it speaks louder because no one saw it coming. Your moves don't need an audience, and understanding this can completely change the way you live. work, and grow. We live in a time where almost everything is shared, announced, and displayed. Progress is posted, plans are public, and private journeys are turned into performances. In such a world, choosing to move quietly feels unnatural, even uncomfortable. But it is one of the most powerful decisions you can make. When you make your moves without an audience, you remove the pressure to impress. You are no longer acting for approval or applause. Your focus shifts from how things look to how they actually are. This shift is subtle but transformative. You stop asking, "How will this be perceived?" and start asking, "Is this right for me?" That honesty leads to better decisions. An audience brings opinions, expectations, and comparisons. Even supportive audiences create pressure because their attention demands consistency and visible progress. When people are watching, you may feel forced to continue even when something no longer aligns with your values. Moving without an audience gives you the freedom to change direction without guilt or explanation. Privacy also protects your creativity. Creativity thrives in safety, not scrutiny. When every step is watched, creativity shrinks. You become cautious. You avoid experimentation. You play safe. But when you work quietly, you allow yourself to explore, fail, and innovate. Many of the best ideas are born in private moments, not public displays. Another powerful aspect of moving without an audience is emotional safety. Not every moment of growth is strong or confident. There are days of doubt, confusion, and fear. When these moments are public, they feel heavier. When they are private, they become manageable. You can process emotions honestly without performing strength. Moving quietly also builds integrity. You do the right thing even when no one is watching. Your discipline is internal, not dependent on recognition. This kind of integrity strengthens character. You become reliable to yourself, and that self-trust is priceless. An audience can also distort motivation. When people are watching, you may start chasing attention instead of progress. You begin measuring success by likes, comments, or praise. This external validation is addictive and unstable. When you move quietly, your motivation becomes intrinsic. You work because it matters, not because it will be noticed. There is also peace in anonymity during growth. Being unknown gives you room to learn without judgment. You are not boxed into an identity or reputation. You can be a beginner without embarrassment. This humility accelerates learning. When you finally step into visibility, you do so with substance. Your presence is grounded. You are not seeking approval because you have already built confidence privately. This makes your impact stronger and more authentic. Moving without an audience also filters relationships. The people who stay connected without constant updates are the ones who value you, not your performance. This clarity helps you build deeper, more meaningful connections. In a world that rewards noise, choosing silence is an act of strength. Your journey doesn't need witnesses to be valid. Progress doesn't require applause to be real. When you move without an audience, you reclaim ownership of your path. And when the time comes to be seen, you are ready. Not because people watched you grow, but because you did the work when no one was watching.